Hello everyone, today I'm doing the Joy Ing challenge and I'm gonna walk you through how I did it in my process. First thing I did was pull up all the references I needed and I practiced doing like the profile picture so I could get a feel of the anatomy and like just the proportions. And it describes the dragons having human-like eyes, but I think the eye I made, it was a bit too bubble-like. So I added a note to myself to make it more almond-like. And the snout was too short, so I stretched it out to make it look more like Joy Ing's style. Then I thought I was going to do Tsunami's cover, but I thought Sundew would fit Abalone better. I started sketching it out, trying to get all the details right so I could move on to the line art. And why I have Perils reference is because Abalone is actually part Skywing, so I needed Perils reference for the horns. Then instead of using black for my line art, I used a dark blue. And I tried making everything right, trying to make it look really clean and nice, trying to look, I kept referencing back and forth for Joy Ing's style, like the covers that she did. Then I started working on the arm scales, but they looked really sloppy, so I tried redoing them. And I started working on coloring. And I did what Light 0 Z2 did, and I laid down a darker color and I used dots instead of drawing the scales individually, and I'm really happy with how it looks. It takes a lot less time, but it still was really time consuming. Then I shaded it and I started working on the eyeball, and I'm actually quite proud of the eyeball. I just think it looks good. And then I start working on the darker nose part, and I add shading and I work on saturation, trying to make everything just right. Then I color the parts of her head, like her ear and like the second part of the snout thing. But this is something I don't like about Abalone's design, is the yellow stripe at the top. It's really hard to make it consistent, and I sort of wish I never made it, but I think it looks sort of good. Abalone actually has a gradient on her tongue, but I think it was sort of lost in the shading. After I'm done with the bioluminescent scales and make them glow, because in the covers every single time they're glowing at least a little bit for the sea wings. I finally am done with the head and I go on to the body and I color in the underbelly and the scales. Again, I make them glow. Then I start working on the main triangular scales, and I shade them and get them all nice, and I start working on like the secondary scales, I guess I could call them, and I finally do the back scales. I start working on the membrane of the frills, but after looking at the main scales for a while, I decide that it would be better to do highlights, and I'm glad I did this because I think it just looks more visually appealing. Then I start doing the frills, and I shade them and color them. Then I do the same process for the back frills. I clean up some of the wing scales. Then I start working on the arm and wing. I sort of started regretting doing the arm and wing after this. There were just so many little scales that I actually had to take a day away from this drawing just so I could just get a better grip on what I was doing. And I finished it up off camera, and I did the bioluminescent scales and I colored in the darker scales. Then I realized that I had missed the fins at the back of Abalone's arm, so I fixed that. And then I did the same process as I did for the first arm for the second arm. But one thing I noticed is for the scales, I never really draw this on my sea wings, but they have like a little border around them. Then I work on the wing, and I start coloring in the scales on the wing. Again, just doing the parts for the arm and wing, it was just pretty stressful because it's such a big body part that it felt like I was getting nowhere. But I'm really glad I did them because I think it looks good and it looks like Joy Ink's style, because I don't know how she does it every time. I do the little horn thing on the wing, and I do the bigger scales on her wing, and I shade them. And finally, I am finished with the dragon, so I go on to the background. I used waves because she's a sea wing. And this is one of the first times I tried to do actual, like, realistic waves. And I decided to add some greenery because the front was sort of looking plain. I thought there was going to be a stick, but that didn't work out, so I didn't use that idea. I colored in the sky and touched up the waves, and I added one more wave just to add some more, like, detail. And I added a cloud in my signature, and I'm finally done. I am really proud of this piece of art that I've done, and one thing I would do if I could do it again is pay more attention to the main wing scales, because I think they look a bit sloppy, but at the time I was just so, like, tired of working on this piece. But I would definitely do it again. But I'm pretty proud, and I'm glad I used Sundew's Post because I think it fits Abalone a lot better. And if you choose to do Joy Ink's style, I hope you enjoy it as much as I did, and I hope you will have a lot of fun with it. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.